quick chats with Janine. Like I promised, I want to have a look at this funeral. So it happened earlier today in Canada. I mean, we're 7 hours, later than the UK. So it happened a long time ago at this point. But I've been watching and looking at all the comments. I took down a bunch of notes. Those are my sloppy notes on what everybody's, looking at. So we were looking for what I call comms, otherwise known as signaling at the funeral. Okay, so the first thing that a lot of people noticed was possibly the funeral itself could have been pre-recorded. So somebody wrote that in a question and I went, wow, what a great observation. The reason I thought that could well be was I thought that Catherine, and so Duchess Catherine and her children looked like they were from a couple of years ago. So the Catherine they've got parading around doesn't look like this Catherine that we see at the funeral. So either they brought back Catherine out of wherever hiding she was, or, whatever sort of arrangement they had for her, because she hasn't been seen for a really long time, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Okay, so we are seeing what appears to be the real Catherine to me, in my eyes, at least the close-up shots. Okay, so the far away shots, they may be using doubles and or, who knows what they're doing. Some of the old actors, some people think cloning, but the close-ups that they had of the children going in. So Catherine, she wasn't with William, but she came in with what appeared to be the Queen Consort now, I guess she would be called. So Prince, I can't remember all these guys' names. Prince Charles's wife, okay, that everybody hates, that gal. So it looked like she waltzed in after that woman with the kids. And the kids look like a 2 years ago version of the kids, in my opinion. That's my opinion. And that little picture of Princess Charlotte crying, okay? She doesn't look like she's aged a wink in 2 years. Well, that doesn't make sense, because kids age really quickly. All of a sudden, they look a foot taller a year later. And the kids look the very same as they looked like a couple of Christmases ago when we were seeing pictures of them. So I'm just not buying I'm thinking that might have been, there were at least some shots that were filmed probably a long time ago. So we're going to ask about that first. Then we're going to look at, there was Masonic floor signaling. Okay, so the floor, they kept showing these shots from the ceiling, which would make sense. They'd, take a shot from up high, but that there was a Masonic looking cross upside down there in one of the shots. And Masonic looking, what I mean by that is the tiles were the black and white tiles of the Freemasons and the 33rd degree and up Freemasons. So in other words, a signal to pedophilia. So those black kind of tiles. And, even if there was a whisper that in the last 10 years, people have been figuring out that's a symbol of pedophilia, wouldn't they get rid of those tiles? You know what I mean? If they really weren't pedophiles, do you know what I mean? But anyway, so there was a shot from up high with these tiles, and the tiles formed an upside down cross. So that was really interesting. The indoor shots where just the family and close people that were invited to the actual funeral, and I know they're not filming literally the funeral, or at least that's what I heard, and I didn't see any filming of the actual funeral inside, inside the indoors funeral shots, just people coming in and standing around. But correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like those could have all been done a couple of years ago, and I got a feeling that's the case, but we'll check with the cards. Also, people were seeing non-human looking. So some people were non-human looking. Some of the people around the casket and carrying it possibly. So we're going to look at, were there hybrids, non-humans carrying the casket, any nods to off-world or other dimensionals in the procession itself. And then somebody mentioned the Bobby's backs were all turned, even when the coffin was driving right by them, they stayed turned facing the crowd. Now we're going to look at, was that a calm? But some people have written me and said, well, actually, they have to look after the crowds. But other people said, well, they should have turned while the actual, the actual cars, especially with the casket going by, they should have turned around and bowed their heads. We don't know for sure. So we're going to ask if the Bobbies with their backs towards the crowd and not looking at the coffin. I can't talk today. It's a retrograde. We're going to look at, was that a signal? And then there was that Liberty Bell formation. A lot of people were sharing that. So the formation of, so when they were carrying the casket on the big procession, okay, where all the people were on either side and they were literally carrying her coffin. I forget what that's called. There's a word for that procession that they did. Anyway, committal service, that part of it. Yeah, that was what it was called, the committal procession. That's it. Anyway, the people carrying the coffin looked like they were on a Liberty Bell formation. It looked like a calm towards a Liberty Bell. So some people said a black angel, but I thought it looked more like a Liberty Bell. So we're going to see if that was meant to look like that. Catherine's necklace, her neck piece, had maybe a Q on it, or what appeared to be maybe slanting towards a Q. So let's start with, when was this recorded? Do we have something recent? Like, was that all, you know how the fake Biden regime inauguration was filmed probably months before, even in a different season? Like, this looks like it might, there was parts of it anyway that looked like it might have been pre-recorded. So let's have a look and see if that's true. See that 7 in the past there? That's interesting. 7 of Cups in the past. So that's smoke and mirrors. That can be smoke and mirrors. And this can be about creativity. So I'm thinking some of it was filmed 3 years ago. So let's see. So 2019. Yeah, 2019. 2021, 22. Yeah, 3 years ago, 2019. Yeah, and it was filmed by, this is Trump and the White Hats. So the White Hats are in charge of this funeral. You better believe it, with that right in the middle. Parts of it were filmed 3 years ago. Wow. So I'd enlist some of those digital soldiers to look up what those kids, like look up the ages of the kids and look up pictures of them. Recent pictures supposedly, and pictures of children the age they're supposed to be, because maybe we haven't seen any real visuals of the kids. Maybe we've been seeing complete like they just held them all 3 years ago, and that sort of visuals. Like maybe we're not seeing the kids at all anymore. But anyway, digital soldiers out there, have a look around for what are their actual ages and what would kids that age look like. You know, maybe they used doubles for the kids who are a little older. I don't know, but this is very interesting. This was done, parts of it were done creatively, it says. So they took creative license and did parts of them 3 years ago. So that could explain why Duchess Catherine actually looked like herself, whereas she hasn't looked at her like herself for a really long time. Now we've got the 5, and they also didn't know. They didn't know. Oh, I see. It's saying when she actually died. So, or at least when she was one of her, you know, maybe it was just a version of her, because a lot of people say she could have died years and years ago. And they put out a clone of her. This is one of the stories. But anyway, when actually they capitulated and she was taken off the earth plane by the galactic helpers, you know, Trump and the White Hats, the alliance, though that time, okay, because we don't know how many times, when did she actually die? We're talking about a reptilian creature had taken over her anyway, so it's really hard to say. But 3 years ago, we know she capitulated. Well, 2017 they capitulated, but then it seemed like they kept them around for a bit, and then the queen seemed to kind of fall on her sword for her family. Okay, so that could have even been a version of the queen. Anyway, that version of the queen. And so the kids would have thought they literally were saying goodbye to their grandmother at that time. So that's really interesting. Wow. That is fascinating. So here we've got the Hierophant and the Sun, okay? The Hierophant and the Sun. So I'm thinking here it was, you know, this might be telling us why she was taken off the earth plane, because cards like to be specific about things. But so she was a deep state dark culter. She was a Khazarian mafia, head of the reptilian. You know, some people give her even more clout than I do, apparently. She had a lot of clout, let's just say. And then crimes against children, because we've got that disappointment card here. Wait till people find out. So all of this is played out because they're preparing the people, because they're going to be so disappointed in what they find out about this person that they called their queen. It's going to be devastating. Big secrets all around. Yeah, some of it was filmed even 2 years ago. So 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So depending on what shots they needed. Let's have a look at the outdoor shots. Wow, you know what? I bet a lot of the government heads, et cetera, that are supposed to be there, some of those shots of those people, and you're going to see all kinds of video footage of them, you know, gallivanting around London like apparently Justin Trudeau was, whatever. That could have all been filmed other times too. So we got a whole bunch of trickery going on here, folks. Be aware that unless you literally are there and you visually see something, some of this was played out and just for cameras and as part of the movie. And what they're showing on officialdom, BBC, etc., could be a lot of fakery there. So yes, this funeral, especially the more intimate parts of the funeral, were filmed at a different time. It could have even been 3 years ago. So let's look at that Masonic shot. I just want to see if that was on purpose. So they had an upside down cross that was all checkered from an aerial view of the coffin going through that religious building, I'll just call it. Yeah, whatever that place is called, because I don't even like saying the word. You know, saying words is really powerful. I don't even like giving them the benefit of me saying their spell-casted words. I believe that's largely, maybe I'm just making an excuse, but largely why my brain doesn't hold information like names of things like that, because it's all spell-casted. Anyway, I'm not going to say those words. Okay, so we've got the Lovers and the Emperor. We've got the Four of Wands. Wow. Okay, it was a signal. Absolutely. Look at this, you guys. Look at this bottom. But who they're sending the signal to is the bad guys. So the signals that you're seeing, so a lot of the signals you're seeing are not even for your benefit. They're actually it's part of the war. It's part of the war, and they're signaling the very end of these guys. So that floor, something about it, and something about that shot, there's probably more to it than I'm seeing, was signaling how these guys went down, and that everything you see going forward, and actually what you've been seeing for years here, has been smoke and mirrors. They lost their power a long time ago. Wow, and it's destined and necessary. Wow, wow. Okay, one more quick one. I want to look at this Bobby thing. Is that normally what, because I did watch some footage of Princess Diana's, and it looked like the Bobbies were doing the same thing. They had their backs to even when her coffin went by. But let's just see if that was meant to be a signal there. I mean, there's going to be so much more come out in the next few days, you know. But we're just touching base here. And like I said, I don't think anything's going to happen today. And it is later already. In the UK, it's a lot later. But here we're like just after noon here, and or just around noon time. But then it's 7 hours later, and already no big roundup. So I definitely did not get, when I had a look, was there going to be a roundup of all these demonics? No, there wasn't. Oh, there might have been some hybrids, off-worlders around the coffin. Isn't that interesting? There were 4 or 5 of them is what I'm getting. Isn't that funny? So whoever saw those non-humans, yeah, they could have put those guys in there just to see if anybody was paying attention. Okay, so this was all created by the good guys, by the way. All your shots that you're seeing and everything they let, all of those stories, the one about Trudeau, he's wearing really casual outfit. He's in a London hotel and he's singing Bohemian Rhapsody the night before the funeral. Apparently that's in really bad taste, and what he was wearing was in really bad taste, and all around just making him look bad. Well, I don't know if you could make him look any worse than he does anyway. So I was asking about the bobbies. I'm thinking that's kind of what they do anyway. I feel like that's common, what they're doing there. I'm not getting a signal, but I do get a signal around the off-worlder energies around the coffin. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, and it felt like in that reading there, it felt like maybe they were showing protective energy for humans, or they're not going to let her out, or her energy or her demon is off planet. Something like that. Wow. Thank you so much. I just thought I'd have a quick check in here. So as the day continues, one more thing. Sky News reported that the Queen had been lying in state for the last 4 years. Okay, let's see if that was done on purpose, or of course they're going to make some big excuse like he just misspoke, right? But that was on Sky News and on a very official channel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they were signaling to her actual death. Isn't that interesting? Or could have even been to her actual roundup, maybe not her actual death. So 4 years ago, what, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21? No, it would have been, okay, she must have been officially rounded up 4 years ago, because it feels like it's more to the roundup and not to her actual demise, which would have been a year later, it feels like. Wow. Okay. Okay, guys. Wild times. Thank you so much for watching and sending your ravens, everybody. Bye-bye.